Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield here at the Harrah's Casino, which is a traditional, wonderful casino which is at the heart of Las Vegas, and in it is one of my favorite shows that I've seen this trip. It's high energy, it's brilliant, it's full of stars, and two of them join us today. Dollar Quartet is the show. Martin, how are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, nice to see you. And of course we've got Robert. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Let's set this up then. Firstly, this is probably one of the most soul-filled shows in Las Vegas. It depends on real talent and your passion. Without that, we're screwed, aren't we?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what kind of brings us all together. That's what it's all about. It's the history of rock and roll. You know, it's where it all really began. And rock and roll is all about soul. It doesn't matter what notes you play as long as you play them with soul. And that's kind of what we're all about.
I love your LA accent, by the way. How long have you been brewing that?
I've been working on it. I've been in America too long. Damn it.
You're from Manchester and you're here in Las Vegas. I can't imagine any more of a sexy life, really, because we all dream in show business that one day we're going to make it in America, and you have. Congratulations.
Thank you. It is a dream come true. I was saying this the other day. I mean, I'm very grateful, feel very blessed to be in the entertainment capital of the world on a big stage doing what I love. I mean, it really doesn't get better than that.
What was lovely tonight was to walk in and see the place packed. That's rare. And it must be so thrilling for you, because if you've got three people in, you're not really going to get the energy. But when it's packed and they're all behind you as they were tonight, it must be thrilling.
Oh, absolutely. It's a wave that we all ride on. You know, I mean, this show involves so much interplay between us on stage that it's a logical progression for it to bleed out into the audience. And when they're giving that back to us, it kicks us up to another level, and we all have so much more fun on stage, and the audience feels that, so it's the sort of cycle that keeps going upward.
I love this story. It is a story of friendship and really how show business happens and how you make it work. Fill us in then, Martin. For those who don't know, what is the $1 Million Quartet?
Well, it's based on everything is true. It was based on an event in 1956, December 4th. It was a Carl Perkins recording session, and Jerry Lee Lewis was an unknown piano player at the time, hired to play piano on that session. And Johnny Cash happened to be in town, Elvis Presley happened to be in town, and they stopped by, and it turned into an impromptu jam session between the four of them. And the whole thing was taped, and you can find it on iTunes. You can look at $1 Million Quartet and you'll see it. And it's basically, we just dramatized that night. It's a fly on the wall kind of show. You learn a lot, you feel a lot, you just get to see these four guys doing things that you would never see them do, like in a performance capacity. You'd see them just, jamming together and cracking each other up and pissing each other off. Like it's a great story. It really is.
What I loved as well, it's not about sparkle and glamour and one of these big production shows. It's about four guys in a room being four guys in a room. They didn't know yet that they were going to end up being some of the biggest stars in the world. There's something cute about that, isn't there?
Oh, there really is. And I think that because it's so focused on the music, and us as musicians get to portray these giant musicians, who would become giants anyway. And we get to sort of tap into that spirit that that they were feeling at the time. And I often say it was really sort of like punk rock for the day. They didn't know what they were doing. They were just putting it together, what they felt like, and it was high energy and electric, and that's what we're doing on stage.
And I guess I don't think it will ever happen again. I don't think we're going to be watching this sort of thing about Justin Bieber and Miley Cyrus in 50, 60, 70 years' time. Somehow I don't care, yet with these guys we do, and it seems like their legend gets bigger the more time goes on.
Definitely, and that's why that's why this is, that's why they call Sam Phillips the father of rock and roll. I mean, he created and honed and nurtured these guys, and they did become icons. I mean, okay, Justin Bieber right now is seen as an icon to his fans. Hopefully in the future, maybe he'll reinvent himself and he'll do different things, and you never know what may happen, but these guys are timeless, and it's a wonderful thing. We feel very honored to play these guys. It really is an honor.
Let's talk about your characters. Of course, there's Elvis in this show. Before the fat days, before the burger days, before the drug days, before the days when he seemed to sort of do a parody of himself on stage, the real, authentic Elvis. And then we look at your character, which you've played around the world. I got to ask you, why you?
Why me? I play Carl Perkins, obviously. I was lucky enough to get booked on this show back when it was just doing a small workshop in my hometown of Seattle back in 2006. So it's quite a few years, and I don't know, I must have done something right because they just keep calling me and saying, hey, we're doing this one, will you please be in this show? So yeah, I feel very honored to have been sort of drugged along in the process.
How great, though, to be taken around the world with it, which must mean that you are the best at this role that there could possibly be, because it'd be cheaper to get somebody locally, wouldn't it?
It would be foolish for me to argue with that.
Yeah. Take the compliment, that's what I say. Well, what's interesting about Perkins, if you add up the list of people in this show, he would be the least famous today, arguably, possibly the most talented. What do you take on his position then? I mean, were they all on a level playing field on this specific day?
You know, that's to sort of back up. I mean, the whole night was put together as a Carl Perkins recording session. He's trying to make a follow-up hit to Blue Suede Shoes, right? So he wrote and recorded Blue Suede Shoes. It's a massive hit for the day. But of course, Elvis did his version of it, and a lot of people still, to this day, think that Elvis wrote Blue Suede Shoes. So to say it's a level playing field it's a bit of a stretch. I mean, there is a little tension between Carl and Elvis. They hadn't seen each other in about a year, and you see that sort of play out on stage where, there's still obviously a friendship and a mutual respect, whereas Elvis might be a little ignorant to the fact that Carl might have a chip on his shoulder. Carl certainly isn't, and he carries that through sort of the show. I mean, there's obviously redemption at the end and things like that. We all kind of work it out, but there is a thing where Carl was trying really hard to achieve the fame that Elvis had overnight, essentially. Johnny Cash had built just a loyal fan base, pretty much immediately. I mean, such an icon there. And Jerry Lee was, really just a young gun who was hired on in the session trying to make his mark, which wasn't hard for him because he's such a dynamic player. It's
interesting. It's a bit like Bob Gaudio and Frankie Valli, isn't it? That thing about who's the genius, the writer of it or the performer of it, and how you sort of cope with not being the most famous when in fact you were at least 50% responsible for the hit.
That's right. And Carl not only wrote it, but he also recorded it. And he was, of the four, Elvis, Jerry Lee, and Carl and Johnny Cash, he was the one who wrote and recorded his own stuff. Not only that, but he played his own solos. I mean, he was an electric guitar player. So I liken him to Chuck Berry in the time where those two guys were writing and shredding the guitar on their own and really doing it sort of independently of any other outside influence, which is pretty cool.
Show business is just not fair. That's what you're saying.
I think I'm leaning towards that. Yeah.
And then, of course, Jerry Lee Lewis, when we look at him and what he did in show business, I mean, I can't think that there's a greater icon, really, when you consider his talent, and you get to play him every night. You can't phone this one in, can you?
It's tricky because, everyone comes in expecting, a lot when they want, to see Elvis Presley, and they have a lot in their minds about what they're going to see. And the same with Johnny Cash. But with Carl and Jerry Lee, people more know about Jerry Lee from hearing Great Balls of Fire and, the hits, but they don't necessarily know him as a person on stage unless they've seen him live. And it's a wild thing to be able to play him because people are just like, oh, that's Jerry Lee Lewis. I mean, it's crazy and wild, and I love playing it because I'm kind of like that anyway. But you can't really. He's so different and unique, and at the time was so revolutionary himself because he was doing piano licks that no one had done, and he was, smashing the piano that no one did that. It was just. Yeah, it was very unique, and it's cool to be doing that. I've got a million more questions for you, but I've been told we've got to wrap up, so we're going to go and leave you with the thought that this is a show that you should come and see for two reasons. One, you guys are so blessed and talented at what you do. I mean, you've mastered the art of standing on stage and basically having your own rock concert. This isn't you just doing one thing, singing, dancing, or comeding, or any of that. You're doing it all together, and I think that's such a gift. For you on stage, I mean, it must feel great that you're here in Vegas in an entertainment capital where you're entertaining people. That's what all four of these guys were, weren't they? Entertainers.
Absolutely. And to be a part of this cast, this particular company, we definitely have a lot of magic between us. And I'm not ashamed to say that. This is an amazing cast, amazing company. And the fact that we get to do what we do here it really sets us apart, I think, from some of the other shows you might go see.
Congratulations, so great at your roles respectively, and really to see people who can do it all is so rare in this town, and you get to do that nightly here at Harrah's. It's $1 Million Quartet. Come and see it performing at 7 p.m. Guys, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.